The storm had rolled in fast that evening, blotting out the sun and swallowing the canyon in a darkness so heavy it felt alive. The young woman clutched the reins of her horse, heart pounding as she scanned the jagged rocks below. That was when she saw him, an Apache warrior, bloodied, motionless, half buried against the canyon wall. His chest rose in shallow breaths, a single sign that life had not yet left him. She knew that stopping, helping him, would change everything. And still she could not look away. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the courage to help even when it's dangerous, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth for more heart-touching stories. Her life had already been carved with hardship. She was a settler's daughter, raised in the brutal loneliness of the desert, where every day was a fight against hunger, thirst, and the weight of grief. She had lost her parents young, and since then, every journey through the canyon reminded her of their absence. That night, when she found the stranger, something deep within her shifted. She could have turned her horse and fled, left him to fate, but the sight of his injuries struck something inside her that would not let her leave. With trembling hands, she dragged his wounded body across the dirt, hoisting him onto her horse, though every muscle in her arms screamed in pain. The night swallowed them as she guided her horse step by step across the narrow ridge, carrying not only the man, but a secret she did not yet understand. The days that followed tested her in ways she had never imagined. His wounds were grave, slashes across his side, an arrow lodged near his shoulder, fever burning his skin. She tended to him with whatever she could find, grinding herbs, tearing her own clothes for bandages, staying awake through the long nights to keep him alive. At first, he was little more than a shadow on her floor, silent, still, hovering between life and death. But slowly, as the fever broke, his eyes opened, dark, sharp, filled with a pride that even his weakness could not steal. She realized then that he was no ordinary warrior. His bearing, his silence, the way he studied her with guarded intensity. There was more to him than she could grasp. As the days turned into weeks, a fragile bond began to form between them. She had always been alone, but now she was not. The wounded man watched her, listened as she worked, and though he spoke little, his presence filled the cabin like an unspoken promise. She wondered who he was, where he had come from, and what dangers followed him. At times, she thought she saw pain not only from his wounds, but from something deeper, loss, perhaps, or a burden he carried in silence. She did not know then that he was the war chief's son, a man whose name alone carried weight across the desert, a man whose life, if lost, could ignite a storm of vengeance. One night, as the fire flickered low, she heard voices in the distance, riders, Apache scouts. Her heart froze, realizing they must be searching for him. If they found her with their wounded chief's son, would they see her as savior or enemy? Fear clawed at her chest, but the man stirred from his bed, his hand weak yet firm on hers. His eyes met hers, and for the first time he spoke words she could understand. He told her not to be afraid, that he would not let harm come to her, that her courage, her kindness, had already tied their fates together. Through trials of fire and fear, she carried him, first on her horse through the canyon, then in her heart as she learned the truth of who he was. When the Apache finally came, they did not find just a wounded warrior. They found their chief's son, alive, carried through the storm of death by a woman who should have been their enemy. What she thought would end in her ruin became the beginning of something greater. She was no longer just the lonely settler's daughter. She was the woman who had saved a life, who had bridged a canyon not only with her horse, but with her courage. The story of that journey would live long after the dust settled, not as a tale of war, but as a reminder that compassion can cut through fear, that one act of bravery can change the course of many lives. And for her, it was the beginning of a bond she never expected, a love born not in ease but in the hardest of places. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories of hope, courage, and second chances. A special request: comment below what part of this story moved you the most. We'd love to hear your thoughts.